are also a Gary Ohioans for concealed carry here. These two testimonies very similar to each other. No? No. Okay. Chair. All right. There is written testimony. Does everybody have their testimony? If not, I'll circulate some. Proceed, Mr. Kessler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the State Government and Elections Committee. My name is David Kessler. I am a member of Ohioans for Concealed Carry, which is a statewide organization that advocates on behalf of law-abiding gun owners across the state. I have been directed to extend the apologies of our founder and president, Jeff Jarvis, who is from Cleveland and in Cleveland working at his regular job today, was unable to attend. And Jeff really wanted me to stress how important this bill is to us for now 2 years running that I know of. That's really like the time I've been active with the organization. This has been our members' #1 legislative goal, to be able to remain armed when they go out to dinner with their families and go to a restaurant that happens to have a permit to serve alcohol. And as you know, I mean, having already considered the bill here today, the vast majority of restaurants have liquor permits. It seems that, you know, perhaps the calculus long ago for the state of Ohio was that, you know, the responsible consumption of alcohol was going to be a big part of the tax base in the state. It is a very lucrative item for restaurant owners to sell, and most of them do. And so as a practical matter, those of us who have elected to pursue a license to carry a concealed handgun and have done so are left in a position when we go out to dinner and it happens to be a place that serves alcohol, we must disarm. And that's a problem for us from a couple of standpoints. One is, just as a general matter, we prefer not to disarm anyway. If we had our preference, we would remain armed all the time. That's a judgment we made about how we go about our lives with great consideration. And obviously, given the time, effort, and expense associated with obtaining a license, it's something that all of us have put a great deal of thought in. The other thing, though, and for me, perhaps this is perhaps even more important, is that I'm forced to lose control of my firearm. If we go out to eat and I'm armed, I lock my handgun in my car, in a parking lot, at Easton, at Polaris, you know, downtown Cleveland, in Toledo, in Cincinnati, when I happen to be down there in a parking garage. I don't think that's the best thing for me to do. I believe that the safest place for my firearm is on my hip. And so what we're trying to do is correct something that happened when the original concealed carry law was passed, which is we just basically legislated around this issue. That is not the approach most other states have taken. As you'll note in our written testimony, there's a map, and you can see that all of the surrounding states would permit me as an Ohio licensee to retain my firearm when I go into a restaurant that serves alcohol. And our idea is that the law should be amended such that we can remain armed so long as, one, we're not under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs, and two, we don't consume while we're there. That's actually the way it works now. I am absolutely prohibited from possessing my firearm if I am under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs. That's been the law for as long as I've been familiar with the firearms laws in Ohio. So really this is consistent with the way we've addressed this issue in the past. Whether you're in your car, you're in your home, you're outside, you're going for a walk, you're out to dinner, if you've had a drop to drink, you shouldn't have your gun. It's illegal to do so. And so this is a really simple amendment to the statutes in Ohio that simply says, if you go out to eat, you can go in and deem permit premises so long as you are not under the influence of alcohol or drugs and you don't consume. That's something that, you know, we firearm owners are used to complying with now for a long time. We don't see it as a problem. We think that it'll create greater freedom for those of us who elect to have our licenses to carry concealed firearms. We'll be more comfortable. We'll be able to patronize more places. Frankly, I have plenty of friends who have a license that simply won't take their families out to eat any place that has a liquor license. So basically, they alternate between, Bob Evans, the Cracker Barrel, and places like that. I have a problem. My family likes to go out for sushi once in a while. Well, try finding a place that serves decent sushi that doesn't have a liquor permit. They all do. And, frankly, most of our better restaurants do. And not even, necessarily a dangerous area here. I don't want to cast any aspersions, but we're talking about, Applebee's and Chili's and basic run-of-the-mill American-style pubs and eateries that we all like to go to. They all have liquor licenses. And even though I intend to have nothing but iced tea, my gun either stays at home or in the car. And I prefer it otherwise, and so would our members. Very much so, in fact. And as you may recall, those of you who were here for the 128th, we had a bill that it didn't make it to the House floor for a vote. We're on this early, and we hope that it will make it to the floor and receive a favorable vote this session. And you'll note in my written testimony that we anticipate. It's not unusual that we get opposition to some of our bills from law enforcement organizations. We anticipate that might be the case here today. But we want to point out to you, and we think that this is important, that the law enforcement organizations lobbied for a change in the law some time ago that enabled them not only to remain armed when they go into a liquor permit establishment, but drink. We don't think that's a great idea, but that's the way it went down. And so sometimes when we see representatives from our esteemed members of the law enforcement community oppose this, and they pick up the lines that the press uses, guns in arms, that's not what we're talking about. What I'm talking about is going out to dinner with my family and keeping my concealed handgun about me at the time. That's a choice that I'm happy to make. That we have, last time I looked, over 300,000 Ohioans with their license now. That doesn't count the folks that have licenses from out of state that are their licenses are recognized by Ohioans. I can go to 13 different states that recognize the Ohio license and keep my concealed handgun with me when I dine, as long as I don't consume alcohol. Ohio should probably catch up. We didn't exactly lead the way on the whole concealed carry concept to begin with. We waited until the path was well trod, and we've done so again when it comes to this issue. And with that, I'm happy to address any concern and take any questions.
Before we get to your representatives, just so everyone is in the audience is aware, we do have House rules governing committees with respect to videotaping. And this gentleman to my right has come up and asked for permission to slip out. And his chair said he can do it over there. Here. So if there's, if you haven't done that, gone through the process, and you are video taping, you've got to clear that before you go any further. Okay? And you are, David, the legal coordinator for Ohioans for concealed carry. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I happen to be a practicing lawyer in Ohio. I work with the Ohioans for concealed carries on a volunteer basis. I happen to be a member and a licensee myself.
All right. So you are truly up on this. Representative Celeste, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your testimony. You mentioned at the end of your discussion that Ohio was slow to the draw, so to speak, on concealed carry in the first place. I was here as a private citizen testifying against it. I still have a problem, particularly with the common sense piece of this legislation. I still do not understand why you say that it's not meant to mix alcohol and guns. It just adds to that possibility. Why would we want to do that?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Celeste, thank you for your question. I had a hard time. I was trying to think of what's a good analogy. And here's what I came up with. I carry my gun with me in my daily activities. Sometimes that involves going to the bank. I carry my gun in the bank. I've yet to rob a bank or want to, notwithstanding the fact that this Sundance told us that's where the money is. We don't have many laws that outlaw being in the neighborhood or in the vicinity of temptation. You know, should it be a felony for me to drive down the street with cash money in my wallet if it happens that there are people dealing drugs on the street corner and I drive by? I have the means. I can buy the drugs. I'm in the vicinity. Why should I not be a felon? And I think that we as citizens want the General Assembly to think better of us. We want the General Assembly to assume that we are responsible, law-abiding citizens who have made the decision to be armed, and we are absolutely capable of being near a drink of alcohol without taking it. We are. Other states that have gone this way have had that experience. We didn't know what would happen in Ohio when we passed the concealed carry law. There were certainly those, Representative Celeste, you heard them if you were here, predicting that this was going to be the Wild Wild West, would be meeting at high noon out of Broad and High and shooting it out over the most petty differences. We didn't think that would happen because it hadn't happened anywhere else, beginning with Florida and all the states that were before us, and it still hasn't. We think the same thing is true with respect to allowing us to retain our firearms when we happen to be in the vicinity of them. We think that our experience will be the same.
Yes, proceed, Representative Celeste.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick follow-up. Would there be anywhere then that you would prefer, in other words, should everywhere be okay to carry a concealed weapon?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Celeste, I've actually thought about that question. I'm not sure what my position is. I'll speak for me, not for the organization, because I certainly haven't asked our organization what their position is on this. My view is there shouldn't be any place. And if there is a place, because the law says I shouldn't be armed, then I believe that the law has guaranteed my safety and security. So, for example, if you want to disarm me when I go in a courthouse and I am violently attacked, then it should be strict liability on the government. You have said, the government, us, we have said, you do not need the means to defend yourself, we've got you covered. Any place where the General Assembly would like to make that guarantee, I'd be willing to consider not being responsible for my own safety and security. Right now, for example, I'm not sure that there are any such places. The most buttoned-down, secure facility I can think of is a prison. Do you think prisons are violence-free? We have them under 24-hour observation. We can segregate the prisoners any way we like. We can lock them up. We can shackle them. We can handcuff them. We can have a guy parked outside their cell and watch them. We can do those things. Yet violence happens. Violence happens places that we don't expect it to happen, notwithstanding our best efforts otherwise. If I am willing to take responsibility for my own security and that of my family, I believe that that's a choice that the General Assembly should respect.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Then you would find it appropriate, perhaps, I know there are a number of my colleagues who do have concealed carry. Should they be allowed to carry here at the State House, not the Florida House?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Celeste, my personal opinion is yes. I believe that this room would be safer if those of us who are here to support passage of House Bill 45 had our firearms with us. That's what I believe personally.
All right. Other questions? I believe Representative Letson and then Representative Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question I have with regard to this is pretty easy as an attorney, Mr. Kessler. Where does the Ohio Prosecuting Attorneys Association stand on this bill?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I don't know.
Follow up briefly?
Yes.
How about my FOP and my OPBA? How are my law enforcement collectives, those organizations, where do they stand on this point?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I don't know. I suspect they're over in the Senate side. We could go ask them.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Representative Mack.
Thank you for your testimony today. I am a concealed carry permit holder, and to answer to one of the representatives over there, the Texas legislature can carry on the floor, and so far I don't think they shot anybody up too much. I would get to your point in a minute. I think that any elected official who has a concealed carry permit doing their duty should have the right to carry in any government building where they think they may be threatened, be it school teachers, school board, legislators, or anyone else. But you're right, we have to kind of define where we're going to carry a gun. The way we have it now is quite confusing. The thing that confuses me the most is a golf course. Can I carry on a golf course? Because every once in a while a beer cart comes by. You know, I think what you're asking and we're trying to do is define, make it sensible for law-abiding citizens to carry their gun and protect themselves and their family. And I would go so far as allow a person to have a beer or a glass of wine at dinner, because if you can get in your car and drive it home, obviously you can drive a dangerous vehicle. But that's just me. Continue what you're doing. We'll certainly stick with you and vote with you and make Ohio a state that we all be proud of and can protect ourselves and our family. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Mack. You can always carry a 2-iron, I suppose. All right, Representative Patton.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Here you mentioned something in the 51% of the sales. Is that in the law now that you just changed from 51%? You mentioned that in your testimony.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Patton, we mentioned it in our testimony because it is a system other states have used, which is to simply say, okay, here's where you can and cannot carry your gun. If the establishment has a license to serve beer, wine, spirits, liquor, and they derive more than 51% of their gross revenue from those sales, you can't carry it. If they derive less than 51% of the gross sales from sales of beer, wine, spirits, liquor, you're good to go. We think that's a terrible way to do it. If we're going to do it, let's just say don't drink. Don't drink, don't be under the influence. That's easy for me to know. I can look to myself and answer the question about whether I can have my firearm or not. Under those schemes, and the General Assembly, the members are aware of these other concepts and other ways of doing things. We don't like that because I don't know. I'm not in control of it. I'm not sure I have accurate information, and I don't want to be guessing. Like Representative Munn, I don't want to guess. I never want to have my firearm where I'm not allowed to have it. I'm going to err on the side of not having it, even though I hate it. And the 51% concept, we think, it makes it very difficult for licensees and will perhaps compound the problem.
So it really doesn't pertain to your testimony today. You just kind of threw that in, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Patton, that's right. It's superfluous.
It's a red herring, I think we were.
Well, you know, just in case. Belt and suspenders is the Justin Wilson position.
Back to my point,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Do you have another question?
Oh, yes, I have a few more.
All right.
Ever been to a football game?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Patton, yes, I'm disappointed to say I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. I'm sorry.
Ever been to the dog pound?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Patton, yes, I have. I am not proud to say that I have personally struck a Houston Oiler with a snowball.
But you did notice the people in the dog pound striking each other.
Representative Patton, that was not my experience, although I don't doubt that has happened.
How about ever been down on West 6th Street?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Patton, I am not familiar with that area.
To have this bill, you obviously haven't been there, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. That was something I probably shouldn't have done. But often on every Friday and Saturday night, whether it's the flats that used to exist or the clubs in the warehouse district that now exist, young folks are having at it and drinking, and to say it's okay for those folks to carry a concealed weapon inside, I can pretty much assure you that rather than having, I think it's only one person struck and killed this season with a fist, that there would be more individuals actually introduce firearms into alcohol-filled situations. And I, for the life of me, am still trying to get it. Why would you introduce a firearm into an alcohol-consuming situation? We all are aware of soccer games where individuals get to go in, Little League football games where law-abiding citizens end up charged with attempted manslaughter and other things, that we're all aware of the tension that takes place in open-air arenas and in bars and restaurants. And for us now, let's say, carry your nine. And I agree with you that there are a lot of people who get these who are law-abiding citizens. But what does a law-abiding citizen do when a drunk insults or attacks him? If there's a gun involved, there's probably going to be some gun smoke. If there's no gun, there's probably going to be a tussle. Or somebody's going to walk away. So I'm trying to understand why the convenience of a gun owner, I leave my radio in the car when I get out of it, go to McDonald's. I leave sometimes my coat, my briefcase, and other items in my car when I get out and go into the restaurant. This seems, and until somebody tells me differently, seems to be, I'm struggling that this is more about the convenience of the owner of the gun than it is about the public's general safety. And when you introduce a gun into an open area, a Little League game, a bar full of young people, that you are introducing something that's going to cause what may have been a brawl into a deadly force situation. And unless somebody can kind of switch that around and show me that, I'm convinced that this is an error, Mr. Chairman, and I'm looking for the testimony folks to give me some guidance on that. Because those have been my 20-year representing people experience.
Okay. Thank you for your question and observation. There's a number of witnesses today. There'll be some more further down the road. You understand where the representative is coming from? Why don't you just answer that?
Mr. Chair, Representative Patman, I don't expect to change your mind, sir. I think that your experiences will inform your vote on this bill. And I trust that you'll do that with a great degree of care. However, I will suggest to you this. Number one, nothing in this bill changes the fact that a business owner, you mentioned the Brown Stadium, you mentioned some of the establishments down, did you say East 6th? Nothing in this bill prohibits them from posting the no firearms sign. They are also welcome to do that. If they happen to find themselves in an area of town or in the nature of their business is such that they believe that the safety and security of their patrons is enhanced by prohibiting firearms, all they got to do is throw up a sign. Nothing in this bill changes that. It leaves it up to the business owner to do the right thing. With respect to your comment about introducing firearms, I will suggest to you this, Representative Patman. If there's gunplay, there was already a gun there. If I'm attacked by a guy and I am in fear of death or great bodily injury, you can bet there's going to be gunfire. I expect to win that fight. I may not, but there's going to be more than one gun in play if I'm on the receiving end of that. I can't help that. Now, what I do in my personal life is avoid circumstances that are likely to end up like that. I can't imagine for the life of me going to a Browns game and then out afterwards and taking my firearm. It's going to probably stay in Columbus. I know that is not a situation where I want my firearm to be involved. But that said, there will be some there. They are probably felons by virtue of possessing their gun in the first place. and I can't control what they're going to do, nor can I predict it.
Thank you, Chairman. Sir, I don't want to discuss or talk about those that are legally concealed carry. That's a whole different subject matter. But is there a distinction between the states that have stricter or less restrictions comparatively? Is there a distinction between those law-abiding citizens in, say, a state that's more restrictive than one that is less restrictive? In terms of, I've never quite, in your research, have you ever come across a law-abiding citizen in a state that's Vermont carry versus somebody who's in Ohio? Are they any different?
Those individuals,
Yeah.
my experience is no. However, when they come to Ohio, they are sometimes confused. They sometimes inadvertently violate some of our laws. For example, I'll tell you, I dealt with a poor guy. He broke down on the turnpike. He's driving across the country. He pulling a trailer full of tools. He was in the trades. You know, it turns out he came from what we call constitutional carry for the state. You don't need a license. He was carrying his loaded firearm in his vehicle. He should have researched the law of all the states he went across, but the fact of the matter is he broke down on the turnpike here. When the officer asked him if he had any weapons in his vehicle, it was in the middle of the night, he said, yes, he's run up. That's a guy I hate to see prosecuted, but our laws put him in that position.
Okay. Chairman,
Yes.
so what you're saying is you don't see a distinction between those people who get concealed carry in a state that come from Vermont that have virtually no restrictions to a state that has more restrictions like our own.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Adams, I have not noticed it.
Okay, that's what I was trying to look for. Why are people different? There is no difference between a law-abiding citizen who goes through the hoops to get concealed carry and a state that has more restrictions versus less. Okay, thank you.
Representative Clyde and Representative Beatty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Question about the ability for an establishment to opt out by posting one of the signs, as you talked about in your earlier answer. I've been talking to some of the restaurant owners in my district about how they feel about this bill, and they're interested in that, knowing more about the opt-out. And I just wonder, does restaurants having the ability to opt out kind of change that dynamic as far as there being confusion for families when they're going to restaurants and they don't know until they get to, say, the door and they see the sign posted? Do you anticipate there still being a lot of confusion for concealed carry gun owners about whether or not they can take their gun into establishments? And I guess the second question would be, would you just choose not to go to such establishments that prohibited concealed carry in their establishment?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Clyde, we have a great deal of experience in dealing with, we call them CPZs, criminal protection zones, businesses that are elected to prohibit firearms in their premises. We respect their wishes. Do we once in a while get caught unaware? We walk up to the door and see the sign of rats. You know, sometimes, but my experience has been that folks actually do their research. We call ahead because we want to know. It's important to us. We also have discussion boards, and there's constantly, we could look it up today, and there will be somebody posting, hey, I'm going to Lowe's, does anybody know if they post or not? You know, and it could be any nature things. It'll be a mom and pop diner. It'll be anything, and 9 times out of 10, somebody knows the answer. Or lives so close by, they'll say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be going by tomorrow morning, I'll let you know. We do our research. That doesn't mean we don't get caught unaware. My approach when I find that out is that I disarm and go into the business and explain why I think that they're making mistakes in posting their business. We have actually a fact sheet that we provide to them, and a no guns, no money card that essentially explains to the merchant, I'm taking my business elsewhere. because you've elected to deny me the ability to protect myself in their establishment. And here's some stats and figures you might know. You'd be surprised how often those signs come down. I think that a lot of them are up because there wasn't a great deal of thought behind putting it up to begin with, because when you call and get your, what is it now, 16-in-1 poster for, you know, all the employment laws, and you put that up, and you get a package of signs from these companies, and they typically put in a no gun sign, and so they figure they have to put them all up, and put them all up, and nobody gave it a second thought. Some of them are actually posted on purpose, and they know what they're doing, and they've made that cautious decision, and they've heard from us, and they respect our views, but they're not going to change. For example, style on chili. They're not going to change. They posted it on purpose, they've considered it, they're not going to change. We understand that, and we respect it. I still have style on once in a while. Some things are worth disowning.
Just hold on a second, Vicky. While this subject was coming up, it did come out last hearing too. And I think it would be helpful if LSC, not today, because we're going to have some more on these, gives us a report on exactly what liquor licenses are affected here, what type of alcohol can be served with these, and, for example, our various stadii throughout the state here, you know, Paul Brown Stadium, Cleveland Stadium. And I think this is important because they are covered by this. And you have a true opt-out system. It's very easy for an Applebee's or a Skyline to post a notice saying we can't carry it here, because in most cases there's one entrance that's a fairly visible type thing. If you have a stadium with multiple entrances and all huge crowds, you know, what's going to be done to get the word out that these stadiums decide they don't want people to carry? And I can't really conceive of a situation in the state where the owners of the stadium would allow that. So they may very well be in an opt-out situation, but just don't know how to comply with the notice requirement. That's why I think it's important for LSC to give you the committee a little enlightenment as to what type of liquor license there are various stadiums and bowling alleys and all these places as well.
Mr. Chairman, your point's well taken. However, by show of hands, who thinks you can take a cooler into Cleveland Brown Stadium? They do a pretty good job of letting us know up front what is and isn't permitted. And the law is it requires that they post conspicuously, Mr. Chairman, so that gives them just unfettered discretion about how they want to go about it.
Okay, I hear you, but I think as a lawyer you can appreciate my point.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome to Cincinnati if you want to see our done in the cool with us. Okay, Representative Meade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kessler, in your testimony you indicate that there are, if I read this correctly, 16 other states that allow concealed carry in establishments and so forth. Is that correct? Or?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, yes.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kessler, do you know how long those states have had those laws on the book?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, no, I'm afraid off the top of my head I couldn't tell you when each of those states passed their law, or the amendment to their law that permitted possession of a handgun in a liquor permit premises.
One last follow-up, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Kessler, do you know, have those laws been in place long enough to show a history of what has been the results of those laws in place and what has happened in the way of any increased firearm activity in those establishments?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, while I personally cannot recall those details, I know that we know them, and I recall that it's been years. We believe that there is a track record upon which the General Assembly can rely, and we'd be happy to provide those details.
Mr. Chairman, that would be helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just two quick questions. First, through you to the Speaker. Welcome to committee. Welcome to Columbus. We are eagerly awaiting the opening of casinos in the state of Ohio. And I guess I'm just curious what your thoughts are about whether you want to be able to carry in casinos, and at the same time, do you have any knowledge as to how casinos in other states handle concealed carry?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lundy, I I can tell you that I'm pretty sure in Las Vegas you can't be armed in a casino. I don't know that for sure, but I have a sense that that's the case. With respect to whether or not one should be disarmed in a casino, I'm torn. I've actually seen the video, perhaps you've seen it, of when, what was the biker gang that just went to war inside one of the casinos on the Strip out in Las Vegas. It was awful. They just went in and it was murder and mayhem. And you know what, had I been walking through there, and you know, my brother used to live in Las Vegas, so we take the family and actually go out there and vacation. So you stay in the hotels because it's beautiful and cheap. But you know, you walk through the casino to go anywhere with the family. I mean, I would hate to be in that circumstance unarmed. That's it. I don't know. I don't know what calculus you would go to determine whether you want to write into the law that casinos per se are going to be off limits for concealed carry. It might depend on, you might get some input from the casino operators themselves. They can have a hotel associated with it. You know, how is the casino going to be situated relative to the lodging, relative to the dining? You know, would you put someone in an untenable position to say, you know, here's a complex with lodging, dining, and gambling, and you can have your gun in 2 of the 3 places, but not the third, which happens to sit between the other 2. I would hope that we would give some thought to those kinds of things. Because none of these places are built, I don't know what it's going to look like at this point.
One more, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Well, we're going. Second question, but I'll ask this one then if I could. You know, there are many people in my districts, in my town hall meetings, we bring this up on a regular basis. It seems like there was a good representation of those who feel that they should be able to take their concealed carry wherever they want to take that concealed carry. And then there are those who, you know, ask the question about, Representative Lundy, why are you working on issues like this? Why aren't you working on economic development and bringing jobs to Ohio? So what's the economic development component to having this? Is this going to bring jobs? Is this going to generate more business or more concealed carry owners more likely to go out more often? What's the economic development component of this, if there is one?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lundy, the economic development component is that we'll go out to eat more often. There's over 300,000 of us, and we have families. You know, some of them, you know, there's multiple licensees perhaps in one family, so give or take. But I'm more likely to go out to eat personally. I'm more likely to take the family out to eat. I'm happy to make that trade-off. I'll forego the pint of beer, have an iced tea, and have my firearm and go get the sushi. I think that there are lots of people, and like I said when I started off, for 2 years running, this has been our members' #1 issue, the one that they beat on us about all the time. When are you going to get it done? It's a big deal for them. And I have to believe that's not coming from some idle interest. They are being constrained in their ability to go out and patronize these establishments with the waiver permits.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just 2 quick questions. First, through you to the Speaker. Welcome to committee. Welcome to Columbus. We are eagerly awaiting the opening of casinos in the state of Ohio. And I guess I'm just curious what your thoughts are about whether you want to be able to carry in casinos, and at the same time, do you have any knowledge as to how casinos in other states handle concealed carry?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lundy, I can tell you that I'm pretty sure in Las Vegas you can't be armed in a casino. I don't know that for sure, but I have a sense that that's the case. With respect to whether or not one should be disarmed in a casino, I'm torn. I've actually seen the video, perhaps you've seen it, of when, what was the biker gang that just went to war inside one of the casinos on the Strip out in Las Vegas. It was awful. They just went in and it was murder and mayhem. And you know what, had I been walking through there, and you know, my brother used to live in Las Vegas, so we take the family and actually go out there and vacation. So you stay in the hotels because it's beautiful and cheap. But you know, you walk through the casino to go anywhere with the family. per se, are going to be off limits for concealed carry. It might depend on, you might get some input from the casino operators themselves. They're going to have a hotel associated with it. You know, how is the casino going to be situated relative to the lodging, relative to the dining? You know, would you put someone in an untenable position to say, you know, here's a complex with lodging, dining, and gambling, and you can have your gun in 2 of the 3 places, but not the third, which happens to sit between the other 2. I would hope that we would give some thought to those kinds of things. And because none of these places are built, I don't know what it's going to look like at this point.
One more, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Well, we're going. Second question, but I'll ask this one then if I could. You know, there are many people in my districts, in my town hall meetings, we bring this up on a regular basis. It seems like there was a good representation of those who feel that they should be able to take their concealed carry wherever they want to take that concealed carry. And then there are those who, you know, ask the question about, well, Representative Lundy, why are you working on issues like this? Why aren't you working on economic development and bringing jobs to Ohio? So what's the economic development component to having this? Is this going to bring jobs? Is this going to generate more business or more concealed carry owners more likely to go out more often? What's the economic development component of this, if there is one?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Lundy, the economic development component is that we'll go out to eat more often. There's over 300,000 of us, and we have families. You know, some of them, you know, there's multiple licensees perhaps in one family, so give or take. But I'm more likely to go out to eat personally. I'm more likely to take the family out to eat. I'm happy to make that trade-off. I'll forego the pint of beer, have an iced tea, and have my firearm and go get the sushi. I think that there are lots of people, and like I said when I started off, for 2 years running, this has been our members' #1 issue, the one that they beat on us about all the time. When are you going to get it done? It's a big deal for them. And I have to believe that's not coming from some idle interest. They are being constrained in their ability to go out and patronize these establishments with the liquor permits.
All right, thank you very much.